Kyle Busch has officially announced he is going to drive for Richard Childress Racing in 2023. What's going on, guys? It's Daniel, and welcome back to our video. As I just reported, it is officially confirmed today that the biggest silly season announcement in the last 15 years has been announced. Kyle Busch will be joining Richard Childress Racing in 2023. He will be driving the 8 car in 2023 as well, and Randall Burnett is going to be the crew chief for Kyle Busch heading into 2023. During the press conference as well today, Richard basically brought out a wristwatch and basically handed to Kyle Busch as basically like a signing bonus for Kyle Busch as well, which I thought was really, really funny during the press conference. During the press conference as well, it was announced that Brexton also has a contract offer to drive for Rich Childress Racing. This means that long-term Brexton is probably the youngest driver to ever get a contract offer to drive for Richard Childress Racing heading into 2023 as well. There's a lot of unanswered questions that were announced at the press conference as well. The first thing is about what is going to happen with Tyler Reddick. Well, Tyler Reddick is going to stay with Richard Childress Racing in 2023, but as I mentioned, he will not be driving the 8 car next year. Instead, he'll be driving a third Richard Childress Racing car because Richard Childress Racing heading into 2023 is going to expand to a 3-car organization next season. Now, the big question is, in regards to that, what number are they going to run? I would presume the number that they're going to run is the number 33. And the reason I think it's going to be the number 33 is because that number has already ran this season with Austin Hill at Michigan. Now, another big question is, what teams did they end up buying the charter from? Well, I think there's 3 teams they honestly could have bought the charter from. First one being Call of Racing, which has alliance with Richard Childress Racing, but I don't think that's the most likely. They could have bought a charter from Spire Motorsports. Spire has 2 charters, and it's unclear if Spire is going to be a 1-car team next year or if they're going to be a 2-car team heading into 2023. That could be a possible option. And then finally, the one I think that also could be a possibility is Ricker Racing. Ricker Racing tends to wait till the last minute, but they did not confirm what team bought it from today. Another big question is kind of talk about is sponsors. Well, the sponsors for Kyle Busch are going to be announced at a later date. Apparently, Kyle Busch has a lot of sponsors that are available for him, and they will announce those at a future date. Finally, let's talk about Kyle Busch Motorsports. What is going on with KBM? Kyle Busch Motorsports will be returning next year to the Camping World Truck Series. There have been a little bit of speculation on social media that maybe they were going to shut their Camping World Truck Series team down, but they are going to intend to be back next year, and they are going to be a Chevy team. But it is unclear currently at the moment who is going to be driving for them because Chandler Smith is a Toyota Racing Development driver, so I would think that he more than likely will be out at the team. Also, Sammy Smith more than likely won't be driving the ARCA program. Since Sammy Smith is a TRD driver, he'll probably be out of the organization as well. But it's also possible John Hunter could also be out, and there might be some new drivers in the Chevy pipeline that could end up driving for the team as well. There's a lot of stuff to really get into here, but really talking about this announcement. This announcement already was talked about here a couple days ago, but this move is a massive, massive move for the Richard Childress Racing department. Kyle Busch is one of the greatest NASCAR drivers of all time. He has won 60 career NASCAR Cup Series races, 56 with Joe Gibbs Racing, and has also won 2 NASCAR Cup Series championships back 2015 and 2019 with Joe Gibbs Racing. And if you would have told me 6 or 7 months ago that this move was actually going to happen, I would laugh at you because, again, nobody really saw this move coming until about a few weeks ago, when about a few days ago, as a matter of fact, when it was reported by Jordan Bianchi that this was going to be happening, where Kyle Busch is going to Richard Childress Racing. And he's going to be going to the 8 car. And also during the press conference as well, Richard noted that he compared Kyle Busch to modern-day Dale Earnhardt, which I think there's a lot of really good comparisons there. Kyle Busch, the driver that was kind of a fan base that's kind of like polarizing. He's got a polarizing fan base, and he's got a lot of other things that play a factor into it as well. But you really think about this for Kyle Busch and how big a move this really, really is. I know some people have not been a big fan of this move, but I think right now this is a really good move. Look how the 8 car has performed this year with Randall Burnett as a crew chief. Tyler Reddick has already won 2 races this year and has a good chance to win the championship. Of course, he does have to have a really good race at Bristol and stay above that cutoff line. I think he's below the cutoff line currently at the moment. But Tyler Reddick has to get above that cutoff line. And I think that Tyler Reddick will be able to get above that cutoff line. I think going into 2023, I think Kyle Busch will be an outside championship contender. I'm not expecting Kyle Busch to win 5 or 6 races next year. I'm not expecting that to happen. But I do think Kyle Busch is going to win at least 2 or 3 races going into 2023. Kyle Busch has done such a great job with Joe Gibbs Racing. And remember, when he went over to Joe Gibbs Racing, that 18 car was a wreck. For the last 4 or 5 years before Kyle Busch got there, from around 2005 up until 2007, that 18 car was terrible. Bobby Labonte struggled in the last couple years with Joe Gibbs Racing. And then in 2006, 2007, you had J.J. Yeley in the car. And let's be honest, J.J. Yeley was not the best performer. Kyle Busch goes to the 18 car and makes it a championship threat. And Kyle Busch also, before the conference began as well, he talked about how he thanked Toyota for everything they've been able to do. And Kyle Busch is one of the most successful drivers and probably the most successful driver in Joe Gibbs Racing history. But another big question now that's going to come up is, what is going to happen for Ty Gibbs heading into 2023? That's an unanswered question. I think at this particular point, I think the 18 car is going to be driven by Ty Gibbs. Yes, they could get another driver to get involved, but I think with Reddick confirmed that he is going to be staying with Richard Childress next year, I think that this means that for sure Ty Gibbs is going to end up in the 18 car next season. Ty Gibbs has been really great in the NASCAR Xfinity Series this year. He's got a lot of sponsorship with him, Monster Energy, Shriners Children's Hospital. He's got a lot of really big sponsors that are willing to help him. He's also been doing really good in Select Cup Series start this year, where he's gotten 1 top 10, but has generally been running around the top 20 in 2311 racing equipment, which is not as good as a Joe Gibbs Racing stuff. I don't think Ty Gibbs going into next year, when he does go to the 18, I don't think he's going to be a championship threat, but I think Ty Gibbs will win a couple races as well. I think this move for Kyle Busch, or going back to him, I think this is generally a really, really good move for him in his career. I know people will disagree. I think Joe Gibbs Racing is still a better team. But Kyle Busch can become a major, major leader, especially with Tyler Reddick leaving at the conclusion of 2023. They were going to need a driver that was going to need to come in there and really help out their organization. And Kyle Busch is someone that really can help an organization not only grow, but also develop as well. And I think, in my personal opinion, I think that this move is actually a really, really solid and an amazing move for the team. And one thing that was confirmed, by the way, during it, for people wondering how long this deal is going to be, it's not a one-year deal. It is a multi-year deal. Now, it wasn't confirmed how long the deal is going to be for Kyle Busch, but I would think that it's probably going to be at least a 3 to 4 year deal. And probably Kyle Busch is going to end up finishing. It's probably going to be a really long-term deal. It's going to be to probably finish his NASCAR Cup Series career with the organization. When we began all this conversation about Kyle Busch to Richard Childress Racing, I did not think that this was going to happen, because we all knew the history of Kyle Busch and Richard. Back in 2011, I didn't talk about this, but back in 2011, remember that Kyle Busch and Richard got into a fight after Camping World Truck Series race. And they talked about that, but they said they resolved their differences years ago and that they're on really, really good terms. When we started hearing that, it's like, oh, Richard is a really big fan of Kyle Busch, and he really wants him to do really, really good, and you really saw the success of Kyle Busch as well. And like I said, with this move for Kyle Busch, I think that this is actually, like I said, a really, really great move for Kyle Busch in his long-term future. And I don't think Kyle Busch, at least in the first year, I don't think he's going to be a championship threat, but I do think long-term, for Kyle Busch, I think going into long-term future, I do think Kyle Busch is absolutely going to be a massive championship threat and can lead the team long-term to a lot of success. One thing I do want to question is, how will Richard Childress Racing also long-term be a 3-car team, or are they going to go back to 2-car team? Well, I think there's a really good chance and possibility that, especially with Austin Hill getting already Cup starts this year, I think after next year and Reddick does leave to go to 2311, I think it's a very big possible option that Richard Childress will probably bring Austin Hill up to the Cup Series, especially with how good Hill has been doing in the Xfinity Series this year. I think there's a really strong possibility that he will jump up next year. There are still a lot of unanswered questions that we still need to know, but I think we're going to see a lot of silly season dominoes begin to fall. I do expect that Kyle Busch will return to the 18 next year. When it comes to the 45 car, and Kyle Busch had been in the running at one point for that car, I reported yesterday on my channel that I do think it's more than likely option that I think that Kurt Busch will be returning to that 45 next year. Pending any health issues, I do think he'll go to the 45. I think if Kurt does not return next year, though, which I think he's going to be returning next year, I would think at this particular point they'll get a driver like John Hunter or somebody else to get behind the wheel of that car, or someone that's in the Toyota pipeline, like a Brandon Jones, perhaps, to get an opportunity to get behind the wheel of that. There's other teams, Call Racing, we already know they've got a Cup Series announcement that is probably coming here late or early October. I think October 5th, their announcement is coming. I would presume that announcement is probably going to end up being Justin Haley signing a multi-year contract extension. There's a lot of other silly season moves that are going to be happening here, but I think most of the dominoes here in the coming days and weeks are going to fall. And I think also when it comes to the 2023 schedule, I think that's going to be coming here this week as well. We're going to start to see dominoes. But this is the biggest silly, when I talk about how big this move really is, this is the biggest NASCAR silly season move in the last 15 years. This, like I said, is the biggest silly season move since Dale Earnhardt Jr. And this is an equivalent to when LeBron James signed the Los Angeles Lakers, or Tom Brady announced he'd be going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after success with the New England Patriots. And it's so big because Kyle Busch has had, like I said, so much success with the Joe Gibbs Racing organization to really help Joe Gibbs Racing become the legendary team that he is. And he really helped that organization grow and develop. And I just think in general, this is such a great move for the KBM, for the team. And I think long-term with Kyle Busch coming back to Chevy, because he started his time with Chevy. Well, technically he started his career at Ford, being a Roush development driver. But he started with Hendrick Motorsports and started with the Chevy branding. And I think Toyota is going to be in a bit of trouble with Kyle Busch out, because now Chevy has so many great drivers in their stable for next year. They've got Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson, Alex Bowman, William Byron, Noah Gragson, Tyler Reddick, Kyle Busch is now there, Eric Jones. And some of these guys came from the TRD development program. Eric Jones, Kyle Busch, Noah Gragson technically came from the TRD group, and William Byron was a driver at the KBM stable. And all this, and Daniel Suarez is another one who's part of Chevy now at this point. You think about all the success that this team has had and everything that Kyle Busch has had, and I think going to Richard Childress Racing, I think will benefit the team long term. And congratulations to Kyle Busch on going to Richard Childress Racing. There's a lot of dominoes that still need to fall, and I think those dominoes are going to be announced here in the near future. But in my honest opinion, in all seriousness, congratulations to Kyle Busch on getting the opportunity to drive for Richard Childress Racing heading into 2023. He'll have a multi-year deal with the team. Massive congratulations to Kyle Busch for driving for Richard Childress Racing in 2023. So, that is the end of today's short NASCAR news video. I want to thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe to the channel, notifications to be notified when a video does go live on my channel. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and support me on Patreon as well. Link description below with that. And comment your thoughts on today's video. What are your thoughts about Kyle Busch driving Richard Childress Racing next year, and how well do you think he's going to perform at RCR? Let me know in the comments below. Tomorrow on my channel, we're going to either have picks on the channel, or we're going to have a little bit of a NASCAR news recap video on some of the news, or we may get a schedule announcement tomorrow. Keep your eyes out on that. Picks will drop later in the week most likely, but we'll wait to see what happens. So anyway, like I said, I want to thank you guys for watching today's episode, and I'll see you guys next time for some more great, awesome NASCAR content and other motorsports content on the channel like this. Take care, everybody.